and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please join me in a moment of silence. Thank you very much. Please be seated. Remember to silence your cell phones if you brought them today. Supervisor DeWitt will be absent for this meeting and not calling in. Supervisor Potabom informed me a few minutes ago he will be a few minutes late for personal reasons. So we will continue as the Three Musketeers in entertaining citizen concerns, the first item on our agenda. Any issues that are not appearing on the agenda, please? Hearing none, I'll move approval of the agenda for September 12th.
Second.
Second by Radig. Discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Passes 3-0. Items 3 through 9 constitute a consent agenda of routine action items to be considered by one motion. Items pass unanimously unless a separate roll call vote is requested by a board member. Item 3 is approval of the minutes of the September 5th meeting. Item 4 is approval of the claims. Item 5 from the public bidder is approval of a notice of property sale resolution for a parcel also known as 1123 West 14th Street and 1402 Myrtle Street, setting that for Tuesday, September 26th at 4:35 p.m. Item 6 from Human Resources is approval of memorandum of personnel transactions. Item 7 is to receive Commission of Veteran Affairs quarterly report. Any questions or comments there? Item 8 from the Board of Supervisors, Supervisor Taylor, is approval of a change in our committee form for the Woodbury County Courthouse Advisory Committee for Historical Preservation. This adds 2 members, Lisa McNeil and Shane Albrecht, who have been involved in these committee meetings this year. Everything else on the committee form remains the same. This will be posted online and reflected in future meetings. Item 9 from Secondary Roads, County Engineer Mark Nera, includes item A, consideration of a permit to cross the county right-of-way with an underground tile. And item B, consideration of a permit for use of the county right-of-way for an underground utility, Frontier Communications. I'll move approval of the consent agenda.
I'll second it.
Second by Radig. Discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Passes 3-0. Item 10 from Economic Development Director David Gleiser is an action item, approval of the 15th Tri-State Governors Conference hosted by the Siouxland Chamber of Commerce. Go ahead.
Thank you, Chairman. David Gleiser, Rural Economic Development Director. So on Tuesday, September 26th at the Stony Creek Hotel and Conference Center, the governors from Iowa, Nebraska, and South Dakota will convene for a luncheon from 12 to 1, followed by an issues presentation from 1 to 2:30. This is something that I've attended personally in the past, and that the board has had participation at that event as well. Since I've been here, we've never had a table at the event, but I guess I just wanted to see what the pleasure of the board was in terms of attending that event and seeing if there's any need to coordinate a table or anything like that. What's happened in the past is I've just paid the $50 fee out of my budget, and the supervisors have paid for their seats out of the board's budget. So my recommendation would be to allow me to attend the event, pay for it out of my budget, and then should the board members want to attend, I can coordinate with the board office and make your reservations and work on seating. It's a first come, first served seating arrangement, so we don't necessarily have to have a table to sit together.
No, I certainly don't foresee a need for a table, Mr. Taylor.
I don't either. In fact, Keith and I probably can't go because we've got a region meeting.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I think the chairman should go.
The chairman will go.
All right.
How about you guys?
And maybe one of the, yeah.
Okay. We will let you
Pat
know.
Bradley wants to go. Pat wants to go. Oh, okay.
Any other thoughts in general on the event?
I think it's good to have representation, appreciate it, and I think it's good to have one of us go, so we'll authorize up to $50.
What's that?
We'll authorize up to $50.
That is indeed the registration fee. Thank you.
So I'd move to allow the Rural Economic Development Director to attend and pay the registration out of his budget, along with directing the Board Administration Office to register supervisors up to 2 who wish to go and pay the registration.
Second. Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed say nay. Passes 3-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item 11 from Secondary Roads includes item A, consider award of project number parent L1.
Move it. A motion that the bridge project to Dixon Construction for correction in Correctionville, Iowa for $145,852.
Second.
Motion by Taylor, second by Radig. Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Passes 3-0. Item B is a proposal to reject the quotes for slurry levelers 2017 for action. This was discussed at a previous meeting.
I'll move to reject bids. Quotes.
I'll second the motion by Radig. Discussion. Bids came in almost double the engineer's estimate and beyond what was budgeted for this work as part of the background material. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Passes 3-0. We are already to the chairman's report, item 12. A is the Winnebago land acquisition notice. The board office was notified of this acquisition notice and is asked to provide certain feedback regarding taxable valuation that may be lost, etc. And so our Rural Economic Development Director has prepared that sort of a letter. I've also been contacted by landowners and constituents in the area concerned in general about the use of the property for economic development or other reasons, and also some claims that I'm not sure where I stand on at the moment is in regards to the rightfulness of the land and how and when it was originally taken and should be retaken by whatever method. So those I have promised to send along with our response to the Department of the Interior, just as courtesy for those that want to be heard. This is within the it will be within the 30-day deadline. The letter originally was delivered to the board August 29th. Item B is the Hungry Canyons Alliance Fall Quarterly Meeting and Tour. I was able to attend in Bronson and briefly give a welcome to those that were attending from out of the county. I've attended these in the past as far south as Omaha and other counties. Basically, it's a time for our engineers departments to share the erosion mitigation methods they've employed successfully or unsuccessfully in different areas of the waterways across our county, grade control structures and the like. So we find how they deal with managing the flow of the water, and it's a good kind of a educational field trip, if you will, for the engineers that can see what works in other counties. So we've had some good success with what Engineer Mark Nera has done, and continue to be appreciative when state senators, State Senator Bill Anderson was there, because this is a state-funded endeavor where the money does flow through the Hungry Canyons Alliance, and often more directly to the issue rather than being filtered through and losing some of its impact. So we appreciate the help it provides to our farmland and other things around the waterways. Item C is Millville Chamber of Commerce meeting. I attended September 11th along with Supervisor Radig. This is a monthly meeting headed up by Chris Countryman with the Millville Chamber and with the presence of the Millville Mayor and one of the other council members. Their discussions were routine, and after that we had a presentation from Director Gleiser and County Engineer Mark Nera regarding the ongoing discussions and ideas of modernizing the frontage road area. The Moville mayor, we know, is very interested in moving along. The last time that I had participated in a meeting, a sit down with the mayor and other county department heads, I asked for some sort of a council level request coming back from them as a specific amount, plans. In turn, the county agreed to provide cost estimates for that paving from the engineer's office, which we have done. We also provided our willingness to be annexed along with certain conditions if the other homeowners, at least 80% of them, would be willing to be annexed. Unfortunately, we have not received that final plan, a specific dollar amount of an ask, or any sort of financing plan. It's kind of up in the air, and I would say the ball is in Moville's court. That's what we communicated, that we're certainly willing to work with them, but that if funding would not come from, secondary roads budget, that, we need to have some other plans in place that they are involved in. So, Supervisor Radig, feel free to add anything you like.
I would kind of like to see us come up with some kind of work together kind of solution. Obviously, if they annex the property, then it's no longer a county road. We wouldn't use any of our funds towards the project. But I wouldn't mind seeing some kind of 28E agreement where maybe we fund a portion of maybe the easternmost road, somewhere in the sum of, $300,000 to $400,000 rather than the full 800 for that road, since we have no real gain by doing that. It would just be more of a partnership with Moville towards future development along Highway 20. Mm-hmm. That's just...
It makes, it makes good economic development sense for the immediate area. If the scope is defined, then the county can engage in more substantive talks, though. That's what I believe we're asking. Mark Nair, did you have anything else to comment on the 28E idea, or?
I've been interviewing staff members or potential staff members, so I haven't got the information for you yet.
Okay, well, the county's provided some reports. As far as hearing back from Moville, we're at the same place I believe we were a couple years ago, which was we want to know the scope and we want to know if there's financing available. Our economic development director shared, $7 million in taxable valuation is the advisable amount to be produced?
Yes, based on estimates that INS Group did for, the City of Mobile had a annexation study conducted, and INS Group were the consultants that developed that plan for them. And essentially, basically, what it looked at was the eastern part of frontage road from Fair Street up to Humboldt Avenue, and it looked at the existing property currently along frontage road in that area, and the current property valuations and utility revenues from that area are not enough to pay any infrastructure loan in the amount of roughly $1 million, and it would take the city $7 million in new taxable valuation to meet their obligations if they were going to take a loan out. So they would have to basically figure out some other revenue or financing sources or do increase their debt service levy. So
we did share the RISE grant idea and how we've worked through a different dynamic in Sergeant Bluff and some of the cost sharing there for infrastructure.
Yeah, which is in all honesty probably not realistic along that commercial corridor, because those grants would have to be industrial projects with the job creation component.
Right.
It could be something for like along Humboldt Avenue if they were able to annex that area, or on the other side, on the south side of 20, in the industrial area.
This is where if you had a total project maybe tying in Frontage Road and Humboldt to provide sewer and water up Humboldt for industrial development, then that could all fall in that category for a RISE grant.
For the road construction, paving maybe on Humboldt. I'm not sure about the water and sewer.
Water and sewer typically would not be eligible for RISE grant money unless water and sewer are there and need to be moved as part of the road project. RISE funds are strictly for the transportation portion of the project, which would be roadway shoulders, grading, that type thing, just as we used it on CF and on Dogwood Trail.
I was thinking of the port project. I thought the city had used a RISE grant to help pay for all the infrastructure improvements made in the
City RISE fund issues may be different than county.
Okay.
I'm not aware of how the city rules for use of that funding works. So that'd be one where we could inquire of either Marty or Dave Carney over at the city and try and find out for you.
Sure.
I can't give just a real brief report. As long as on frontage road, as long as frontage road is in the county as a rural road, the board can spend money under that under 331 429, I think it is, of the code. It is eligible as a secondary road. As I said during the meeting with the chamber, it's not a road I believe is in as dire a need of the secondary road funds as the others. We're unable to levy any rural basic tax that comes to the road department. Many counties are. We're able to take 16 and 7/8% out of the general basic levy. We don't do that here because that levy is generally spoken for before we ever get to the county, but it does count against our 75% minimum effort. The board could choose to do that project, though, as long as the city has not annexed it. And then the portion in front of Dollar General would have to be paid for 100% city. That would be done. Typically, we don't go through the 28E process on these. We do construction agreements with the city. They're equally binding with the community, but they don't require recording at the Secretary of State's office like a 28E agreement will. It's just additional administration.
Well, I would just see it as an agreement that they would annex the property as soon as we're done making improvements, so that ongoing maintenance of that road would fall under the city then.
That would be an option.
That's where we'd need the agreement.
I don't know how your rural residents would feel about that, but that's above my pay grade, as
Sure.
they say. So, but again, I'll try and have you a written report with the different possibilities on that. It is not a farm to market road, so it's really not eligible for any funding above that. And as Director Gleiser mentioned, since there's no job creation or new industry looking at moving into this area, we don't really have opportunities for RISE grant funding at this point in time.
Very good. Any other thoughts there? Any reports on committee meetings?
I've got a few.
Go ahead.
So I'll start off with Siouxland District Health. Threefold report here. First, I've shared with you before, accreditation is really a powerful tool. And if you notice the 200 some odd pages of standards and measurements and metrics that they have to go through in order to be certified, I think it speaks well of them because it's a high quality independent third party verification. We always toot our own horn, but when somebody else comes in that's in that industry and signs off on the delivery of immunizations, restaurant and well inspections, disease and public health outreach, I think that's impressive. So they continue to go through that. We've had an interesting talk lately about quarantine law, which is the statute under which individuals can be quarantined if there is an impending outbreak or they are someone who can compromise the community. So we're wrestling with some of those issues and may employ legal counsel. I'm looking down the table at our legal counsel for some guidance on that. There are certain issues, like if you take someone who's homeless and you put them up in a hotel are you, how much food are you required to pay for and for what length of time, and under what premise do you employ the sheriff's office in the delivery. So there's some really interesting dynamics there. We've determined through, I believe, an attorney general's opinion that we do not reimburse wages, but that we are responsible for food if someone doesn't have the ability to pay. So we're just wrestling through some of those, kind of interesting. And then the iSmile program, which delivers services in the Sioux City Community Schools and other entities like Sergeant Bluff Schools. Really low compliance on signing off that people have dental care in some of those different schools, so we're looking at that as well. Shift to the region, and Plymouth County Supervisor Don Cass and I had a very good conversation with Dr. Paul Gosman, the superintendent of the Sioux City Schools, and his team, talking about the region and its delivery of monies that go ultimately to mental health, proactive mitigation in the schools. And so putting together a letter that we're going to ask the chairman of the Sioux Rivers Region Board to sign, signaling to the school district 3 parameters. First, that this is a very powerful tool that we believe in. Second, that we continue to plan funding in the future. Funding will not be affected this fiscal year. So we don't want to pull the rug out from underneath of anyone. But potentially at a 15 to 20% reduction, we're having to do some belt tightening at the region level, so that that level of funding may not be there quite as much. And thirdly, that we desire that these be used for licensed mental health clinicians or practitioners. School district showed us an RFP that actually exists when they did Project Aware that stipulated just that. And so we think that it's wholly appropriate that mental health funding go to mental health professionals. They, in turn, helped us to understand that they know that there are reporting requirements and that they are the best ones to determine the placement of those individuals within their schools, not an outside organization saying this is where potentially they desire to be placed. And they have a Project Aware, which is a 2-year grant right now that's set to expire, that has federal funding that will be going away, for which they have some licensed practitioners. So this is going to become very important to them. But I hadn't had a chance to share this, wanted to, and I think that it was a very good meeting. I'm also going to share that my understanding right now is that I've learned that the Sanford Center has reduced one of the outreach workers in the schools due to funding cuts or a lack of funding. I want to be absolutely clear on something. One, that the region is talking about FY19, so funding not for this year. So if the Sanford Center is talking about lack of funding, it is the lack of their own funds or fundraising, not anything that this region is doing. And so I want that to be absolutely clear. I understand that they've gone from, I believe, 6 to 5, so it does meet the minimum requirement. But those 5 are in interesting placements, and that can be worked out between the schools and them. That's not our deal. But just thought I'd let everybody know.
Thank you.
And then I've got one more after that, but if you have any questions or anything.
Go ahead.
Last one's building services, our weekly call, the basement column deterioration with Raker Roads and working with a Baker group. They found an alternate method that can still treat the corrosiveness inherent in those beams through an alternate technique that'll be somewhere between $22,000 and $30,000.
Like a spraycrete, is that what they're thinking?
What's that?
Like a spraycrete kind of deal?
It's like a sheathing of the entire column that'll completely encapsulate it. And Raker Road signed off from a structural engineer standpoint. So that's good news about the bad news. Mm-hmm. So it's a lesser cost, but they believe structurally just as sound.
What is the life expectancy of it?
I asked that same question, how often do you have to do, and they acted as if it's, when you say in perpetuity, but that it's a long-term solution because of the anti-corrosiveness in the rebar that they're going to in place. So I don't know how long is long, but it sounds like it's not going to be something that you're going to turn around in 5, 10, or 15 years and have to redo.
But they still have to look at how far up they would need to do that.
Yes. Yeah. But it sounds like they believe that between those two cost price points that they'll be able to take care of the problem. So that's a good news report.
Because after the meeting, I was thinking, man, even a spraycrete, you know, something where they pump down a long hose and tube rather than carrying down, you know, 5-gallon pails.
Mm-hmm.
I think that would be a lot more cost effective too, but nothing's necessarily cheap. And then I guess that was your last.
Yep, that's it for me.
I just took a county parks tour with our conservation director. Really neat. I didn't even know, you know, I've never been to the Southwood Park area, and I was really impressed with that one. That was kind of probably one of my favorites, but one thing I was thinking along the trip is that it might be good to have some kind of strategic planning with our new director and Rick here come December, since that is going to be the month of overlap. And I just think that, you know, if we get somebody like a Deb Burnnight and get a few departments together just to kind of have, and then the entire board, I think it might be good to have some strategic planning, you know, as far as an outlook, 10 years down the road, 5 years down the road. That's it.
They have a great conference room.
Deb Burnight's good.
It's really an impressive system we have. You wouldn't know about unless you went on a little drive. Any other committee reports?
Oh, I did want to follow up on that study where it said you need $70 million to pay back a debt service on that. If I do my math right, you only need about $8 million, but I guess they're...
7.
Okay.
So
I thought it said 7. Say that's
so we're good.
out of bounds.
But good catch otherwise.
All right.
Any other committee meeting reports?
I have one question. Well, maybe there's a board concern, but voting. What's the latest a person can vote?
8 o'clock.
Thank you very much.
So we need to get out of here by then.
Right.
Well, if you'd quit talking down there.
I voted early so I can go as late as you guys want. Any citizen concerns? Any board concerns? I was going to mention the voting, so good on you for that. Reminder that the department head meeting is next week. We plan to talk a little bit about the budget process upcoming and look at the last meeting of December, doing some of the easier to get out of the way budgets at that time, as well as have make it known that organizational charts, as Supervisor Radigue requested last budget session, be provided as well. There's also an employee appreciation luncheon coming up on the same Tuesday next week, and that is all I have. Hearing no other board concerns, we are adjourned. Thank you.